Hey guys, what's up? Fan here again, and today I wanted to bring you guys a video about the huge new update that happened yesterday in Summoner's War Sky Arena. And basically what this update was it was version 1.3.1, and it brought in a lot of new content. It brought in 4 new areas, as you can see here, and it also brought in 4 new rune sets with new abilities, once for each area. And there were also some new monsters released. So I'm going to go over everything in this new content patch a little bit here and kind of give you what my first impressions on everything is from what I've played and from what I've heard from other people. So first off, let's talk about the new areas. So as you can see here, this is Famon Volcano, and this used to be the hardest zone in the game before the patch hit. Now, Famon Volcano was somewhere where everyone started farming for fodder monsters in order to kind of gain as much experience as possible, in order to gain as much mana as possible from, kind of selling the runes that you get there. And this new content patch shook everything up because it added these four new zones. I don't know if I've named them yet, but I'll just go through them real fast. So, of course, you have the Aiden Forest, the Farron Castle, Mount Ruiner, and Chiruka Remains. And so far, I think the competition for farming really is between Chiruka Remains and the Famon Volcano, where everyone used to farm. And from what I've heard, they're very comparable, so if you can't make Chiruka Remains yet, don't worry. Famon Volcano is pretty much just as good as Chiruka Remains, so you can keep farming there. Some minor differences include, Chiruka Remains gives about 200 more experience per fodder monster. It gives around like 900 to 950, whereas, Famon Volcano will give you around 700 to 750. So it does give a bit more experience. However, the clears are slower because the monsters are a lot stronger in Chiruka Remains. And also, the runes in Chiruka Remains sell for about 200 less per rune than the runes in Famon. So, in a mana standpoint, I think Famon will actually be more efficient than Chiruka. In a time standpoint, once again, Famon is better or less time consuming than Chiruka Remains right now. And lastly, from a pure experience standpoint, I think Chiruka Remains gives more experience per energy than Famon Volcano does. So that's about how the zones compare there, and I'm going to kind of move on to the next thing. So the next thing is, within each of these runes, within each of these zones, there's actually a new rune set. And I wanted to talk a little bit about each of the new runes. So the first new rune is the Will rune. And the Will rune grants immunity against status effects for 1 turn at the start of the battle. And this is an additive property, meaning if you have a set of 4, then you have immunity for 2 turns at the start of the battle. And if you have a set of 6, you of course have immunity for 3 turns at the start of the battle. And this is a really interesting rune. It hard counters some of the teams that are focused on having a really fast CC'er. So off the top of my head, for all those people running just like a water sylph as their leader, the water sylph often relies on getting a freeze off on their first or second turn in order to incapacitate your entire team. And that used to be like a really good strategy in Arena. However, I do expect that the Will rune is going to counter that a little bit, so it might make AoE CC'ers a bit weaker. But right now, not many people even have these runes, so exactly how much it'll counter them, I can't say for sure. Secondly, we have the Nemesis rune, and what the Nemesis rune does is it increases your attack gauge by 4% every time you lose 7% of your max HP. And if you don't know what this is, your attack gauge is basically like the blue bar that is under your HP when you fight. And what that blue bar is your attack bar. Your summons can't attack until that blue bar fills all the way to the top. And increasing the attack gauge basically means you fill up that blue bar faster. So you can kind of think of this as similar to speed runes, which also fill up your attack bar faster, or violent runes, which give you more turns. It's kind of similar to those, but of course it's unique in the sense that you only gain more attack gauge if you lose your HP. Now, the third one I want to talk about is the shield rune. The shield rune creates a shield for all allies that matches 10% of the monster's HP for 2 turns. And there's some interesting questions that need to be asked about this description. The first question is, it says 10% of the monster's HP, but we're not certain on which monster. And what I mean by that is it 10% of the monster that you put the rune on, or is it 10% of the monster that the shield is on? Because the shield is going to be on 4 different people on your team. So, theoretically, the monster's HP could mean the individual monsters as opposed to the monster that the shield rune is actually on. However, from what I have seen, most people seem to think that this shield rune, what it refers to is the monster that the rune is actually on. So what you're gonna get is a 10% shield that is gonna be the same shield for all 4 of your monsters. And that's obviously pretty interesting. And the second thing I wanted to talk about the shield rune was there was another question in regards to whether it applied to only your base HP or if it applied to your total HP. And as an example, we can see here your base HP is going to be the number in white. So my base HP on Sue here is 7,260. However, my total HP is the combined number here. What you see in green is what you get from runes, of course. So the combined HP is actually 15,000, which is more than double. So obviously, it makes a big deal. Is it 10% of 7,000 or is it 10% of 15,000? And from what I've heard, people seem to think that it is based off of your base HP only. So it's going to be 10% of 7,000, not 15,000. That's pretty much what I've heard so far about that rune, and obviously it's very interesting to kind of create a shield for your entire team. I think that rune is going to be experimented on a lot very quickly. It's got a lot of potential, but it's unfortunate that it is base HP. And once again, I'm not 100% sure of anything here, but that's what most people think it is. Now, lastly, I want to talk about the Revenge rune. The Revenge rune is a set of 2, and it basically counterattacks with your first skill with a 15% chance. Obviously, this is good on monsters which have a good first skill. So if the first skill has a high chance of stunning or freezing or maybe even sleeping, that could be a really good combination. Also, it's good probably on high HP heroes, just because high HP heroes can withstand more hits and therefore they will have more chances to counterattack. And all of these runes, the properties that all of them share in common are they are additive. So sets of 2 and sets of 4 are different. For example, for the shield rune, a set of 2 is 10%, but a set of 4 will make it a shield for 20% of the monster's HP, and a set of 6 is going to be 30%. So all of the runes are additive. The more you put on there, the better the effects get because they stack up. And the other thing is that they're all sets of 2, which is really, really nice because they can all combine with the sets of 4 runes that we already have, making the rune combinations on monsters virtually limitless. There's so many different rune combinations that you can do now. It's going to be really interesting, and everyone's going to kind of have to figure out what the best rune combination for their monsters is again. So that'll be really fun. And that was the main part of the content patch. I'm just going to go through the rest of it really quickly here. So new monsters were added, 2 3-stars and 2 2-stars. From what I've heard about the 3-stars, they do have their use in very situational aspects, but they're not going to replace your natural 4 or 5-stars anytime soon because they are only 3-stars. So I'm not going to talk about them too much in this video. Next, we have new features for the Trial of Ascension. There's going to be a hard mode to test your limits. I personally haven't even cleared the normal mode yet, so it's already very hard for me as it is, but it is nice to see that, for the very, very end game users, the people who have already gotten to the end game, it's nice to see that there's continuous new content for those guys as well. Next thing is the rune storage slot has expanded to 120, which is awesome, because if you've been playing this game for a while, you know that it is super annoying to constantly have to, you know, micromanage your runes and decide which ones you want to delete to make space for others. And it's just really nice to get more rune slots. And from what I've seen, their stance on this is they're going to continuously increase the rune storage slot space, and they're going to do it kind of slowly to make sure that it doesn't put too much strain on their servers, which keep track of all the data. Which, you know, that sounds perfectly fine to me. It's very reasonable, and I am just very glad that we can get more rune slots. So that's about it for this video, guys. I might talk a little bit more about these changes in future videos. If you like this video, please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. There's going to be lots of awesome content coming out in the future, so yeah, definitely make sure to subscribe. And other than that, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, bye.